Advisory. Some episodes of the 1836 podcast are not intended for all audiences, due to details that might be considered disturbing. Listener and viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, I'm Nathan Rogers.
And I'm Joe Batterton.
And this is 1836 Podcast.
On episode 23 of the 1836 podcast, we talk about the White River Monster.
Joe, it's been a while. We haven't actually recorded in a few months, but it's just like hopping on a bicycle. I think we can figure this out.
Oh yeah, it's things, life and baseball games and
Basketball games,
vacation and basketball games and all kinds of fun stuff like that.
Blues gigs,
Just,
releasing albums.
Yes, all kinds of wonderful things have been going on. So, what are we going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about the White River Monster.
The White River is approximately 722 miles long, flowing through the U.S. states of Arkansas and Missouri. It begins in the Boston Mountains of northwest Arkansas, near the boundary with the Ozark Mountains. The river flows generally northward into southern Missouri, where it curves back into Arkansas, ultimately heading south and eastward. Throughout its journey, the White River traverses various landscapes, including mountains, forests, and farmlands. It winds through multiple counties and forms several significant lakes and reservoirs due to the construction of major dams like Norfork Dam, Bull Shoals Dam, Table Rock Dam, and Beaver Dam. These dams contribute to flood control, hydroelectric power generation, water supply, and recreational activities. The White River eventually merges with the Mississippi River near the town of Rosedale, Mississippi, which leads to the Gulf of Mexico. This confluence marks the point where the White River's waters join the Mississippi, contributing to one of North America's longest river systems. As the White River flows through Arkansas and Missouri, it plays a crucial role in the ecology, economy, and recreation of the regions it traverses. The river's flow is controlled by a series of major dams constructed over several decades. These dams serve multiple purposes, from flood control and hydroelectric power generation to recreation, reshaping the landscape and impacting the river's ecosystem. The first major dam on the White River was Norfork Dam, constructed between 1941 and 1945 in Baxter County, Arkansas. This dam created Norfork Lake, a multi-purpose reservoir used for hydroelectric power, flood control, and recreational activities like boating and fishing. Bull Shoals Dam, constructed between 1947 and 1951 in Marion County, Arkansas, is the largest dam on the White River. It created Bull Shoals Lake, the largest reservoir in the system, serving as a significant site for flood control, hydroelectric power, and recreational use. In Missouri, Table Rock Dam was built between 1954 and 1959, forming Table Rock Lake, which extends into Arkansas. It serves similar purposes, managing river flow for flood control, hydroelectric power, and recreational activities. The most recent of the major dams, Beaver Dam, was completed between 1960 and 1966 in Carroll County, Arkansas, resulting in the creation of Beaver Lake. This dam serves for flood control, hydroelectric power, and also provides a crucial water supply source. These four dams, Norfork, Bull Shoals, Table Rock, and Beaver, play pivotal roles in managing the White River's hydrology and ecology. They regulate the river's flow, affecting sedimentation and fish migration patterns, while simultaneously transforming the White River Basin into a popular destination for recreation, including camping, fishing, and boating. Despite their benefits, these dams can also disrupt natural habitats and wildlife. Nonetheless, they remain integral to the management of the White River, striking a balance between human needs and environmental considerations. Beyond its dams, fish, and wildlife, the White River is also known for its folklore, specifically the legend of the White River Monster. This captivating legendary creature, believed to inhabit the river, has become a part of Arkansas's rich folklore, adding an element of mystery to the scenic river. The story of the White River Monster has intrigued locals and visitors for decades, keeping the legend alive and sparking ongoing curiosity about what might be lurking beneath the river's surface.
Whitey.
AKA Whitey. And for those of you who have not heard about it, it's kind of like, it's ironic because this week that we're recording, however many years ago, was the first documented sighting of the Loch Ness Monster. So this is kind of the Ozarks Loch Ness Monster in the White River.
Yes. I grew up, well, you grew up on the White River, basically. I grew up on kind of the lower, I was on the Black River, which flows into the White River. This thing was spotted was it in the 19 teens? You know the
Actually,
date?
earlier. Actually, it's Civil War.
Okay, but the first like newspaper. Well, I guess that was in the newspaper too, wasn't it, back then?
It was. I don't know if it was in the paper, but it was told as folklore. Who knows about that? But
The first stuff I heard about it was like around Newport,
yeah,
uh, Batesville, Newport, up and down the river, the
and
White
the
River,
river's
right
pretty
through
long.
there.
It's 722 miles long. It starts
Right.
in northwest Arkansas, goes up to Missouri, comes back down.
Turns
Uh,
into our lakes that are up here in our area.
yeah,
So it's Beaver Lake, and then Table Rock, Taneycomo, Bull Shoals,
it dumps into the
goes
Mississippi, which eventually goes into the Gulf of Mexico, the ocean. So that's
yeah.
kind of a key
So
thing to remember. It does end up in the Gulf.
Stories of the White River Monster, also known as Whitey, have circulated since the American Civil War. During the war, the White River was a major transportation route, and some claim that the monster overturned a Confederate gunship, although there are no official records supporting this. The first documented sighting of the White River Monster occurred much later, in December 1912, when timber workers floating cedar rafts near Branson, Missouri, saw something large on the riverbed. Initially believed to be a boulder, the object soon moved, leading the workers to believe that it was a gigantic turtle, estimated to weigh around 300 pounds. This sighting caused a stir among Branson sportsmen, prompting local angler Tom Brainerd to organize a group to capture the creature using strong ropes. The outcome of their expedition remains unclear. The earliest documented sighting in Arkansas came in 1915 when a farmer near Newport reported seeing a large creature in the White River. The description did not gain much traction, but the legend would resurface several times over the next few decades. In 1924, a Little Rock resident named Ethel Smith reported seeing a creature surface with a loud blowing noise, describing it as gray with a peculiar hide. However, the most significant surge of interest came in July 1937 when a series of sightings near Newport made national headlines. Workers on Bramlett Bateman's plantation claimed to have seen a large, mysterious creature in the river. Bateman described the monster as wide as a car and 3 car lengths long, with a hide like an elephant. His description led to media coverage across the United States, drawing crowds to Newport, hoping to catch a glimpse of the creature. The excitement surrounding the 1937 sighting spurred efforts to capture the White River Monster. State toll bridge collector W.E. Penix organized the construction of a large rope net, focusing on the deep eddy where the creature had been sighted. The Newport Chamber of Commerce hired a diver, C.R. Brown, to explore the riverbed, but his search was thwarted by muddy waters and equipment malfunctions. Curious spectators flocked to the area, some carrying firearms for protection. Ultimately, the netting project was abandoned due to a shortage of funds and materials. Despite over 100 reported sightings during this period, skepticism grew, with many suspecting that Bateman may have orchestrated a hoax. The White River Monster returned to public consciousness in 1971 and 1972 with a new wave of sightings. Reports mentioned a gray creature with a horn on its forehead and a spiny back. A set of 3-toed, 14-inch tracks was discovered along the riverbank, suggesting a large animal had passed through. Newport resident David Jenks said he saw a creature thrashing in the water, describing it as the size of a car and the length of 3 pickup trucks. Another person noted that it looked as if its skin was peeling all over, but it had a smooth type of skin or flesh. Others reported hearing strange noises from the creature, resembling a mix between a cow's moo and a horse's neigh. Despite the renewed interest, efforts to capture or document the White River Monster yielded no conclusive evidence. Whether it is a product of folklore, misinterpretation, or something more mysterious, the legend of the White River Monster continues to intrigue and inspire curiosity. In 1973, the Arkansas State Legislature established the White River Monster Refuge, a designated area along the river near Newport, where it is illegal to harm the monster. Whether it is a product of folklore, misinterpretation, or something more mysterious, the legend of the White River Monster continues to intrigue and inspire curiosity, becoming a captivating part of Arkansas's cultural heritage.
So, so have you got the article? Have you got any of those articles or any of the stats there on when it was first sighted?
I have a few. The first documented sighting, other than the Civil War tale, was in 1912 near Branson on the White River. Some timber workers saw a large moving object on the, wasn't really sure what it is. They just kind of blew it off as a big giant snapping turtle. That brought out a guy named Tom Brainerd from Branson, who was, I guess, a local well-known fisherman, and they got some crews out, went and searched for it, and no luck. But the first known sighting in Arkansas documented was in 1915 a farmer from near Newport saw a large creature in the White River. Didn't gain a lot of traction then, but in 1924, an Ethel Smith from Little Rock saw something and heard it and described it as gray with a peculiar hide.
There was also, during the Civil War, there was I think it was a Confederate gunboat that was flipped up or flipped over, and they were trying to claim it was some kind of sea creature or river creature. I guess it would be a sea creature, but it's the description that the things that I've heard basically range from Loch Ness monster with the head sticking up out of the water and the kind of serpentine body back behind it, to just kind of a slick gray skin. I've heard it be, I think one of the descriptions was that it was
peeling.
It was like this, the size. Yeah, it was the one once said it had like peeling skin, which led some people to believe it might have been a sea lion or something. That's an awful long way up the river to be that. Also, they said one description said it was like the length of like 3 cars, which would have been probably like what a Model T Ford or something like that at the time that was described, which is still huge. But you know how that is. How many times have you talked to a guy that went turkey hunting or went deer hunting and said, "How big was the buck that you saw?" It was the antlers were like, it was a 492 point buck with a 6-foot spread. Stories get embellished when people get excited about things. So
it picked back up in 1937. Lots of sightings near Newport made national headlines. A guy named Bramlett Bateman, his plantation workers reportedly saw a large creature described as wide as a car and 3 car lengths long, which, back in 1937, the cars wasn't as big as they are now.
But still,
had a hide like an elephant. It drew national attention this time.
This is the time when they were people were coming up from Little Rock they were having carnivals and parties, and they were building dance floors out close to the river, and then there was some people that were charging people like a quarter to come on their land to see this to potentially see this creature.
Yeah, the Newport Chamber of Commerce hired a diver, C.R. Brown. I think he may have been from Memphis, to explore the riverbed. And of course, he couldn't see anything from muddy water and equipment malfunctions. And
if you've ever been around the White River when it gets down that far, visibility probably is no more than a foot, if that far. So you're probably not going to see anything underwater anyway.
And then later sightings in 1970 and 1972, or 1971 and 1972, reports of a gray creature with a long horn in its forehead and a spiny back. Possible 3-toed 14-inch tracks were found on the riverbank. In 1973, this is the kicker for me. In 1973, the Arkansas State Legislature, our politicians that we elected, created the White River Monster Refuge, which I believe is still in effect, which is a designated area along the White River protecting it. So if you see the White River monster in this certain section of the White River, it's illegal to harm it.
You have to leave him alone.
Leave him alone.
He's in his refuge, that right there. I don't know those guys, and I don't know the reasoning why. It's a good publicity thing. It probably adds a little bit to the mystique of Arkansas and adds to tourism. And I'm thinking maybe that was the reason they did it. Maybe they really believe that Whitey's out there, and they want to protect him or her. But if let's just say hypothetically this is something that's real, it's something. I mean, people at some point saw something. I mean, I'm not saying that none of these reports were made up, but I know that at some point I'm thinking that somebody saw something. There's usually a little bit of truth in any kind of cryptozoology. I mean, whether somebody saw a bear and thought it was Bigfoot, or it was a log or something laying there, they saw something, and so I'm thinking the White River Monster is probably the same. It falls along the same lines. But what is it? And is would it be have a breeding population? And if there was a breeding
Well,
population, wouldn't you think that there'd be some pictures of it and they'd have seen it by now?
and what
And
is
has
a monster anyway?
That's true. Me and you have dealt with real monsters in our former careers in law enforcement, and anybody out there that deals with some of these monsters out there understand what we're talking about. It could be anything from that to, just an animal that you don't know what it is. Uh,
Yeah, if a monster is just some ugly, scary-looking unknown creature, um, yeah, I think they saw something. I don't think it was a mythical monster. I think it was
you know,
probably a combination of several different things throughout the
you
years.
know,
Because if it was first seen in the Civil War and then again in 1972,
right?
that's yeah,
And I think supposedly, now I've never read the actual accounts, but I've heard that there was Native American uh, stories that have been
yeah.
passed down about some creature. But there again, what's being lost in the interpretation, and what were they really talking about? Were they talking about the same thing that we're talking about right now, or was it something just totally different?
After a lull in sightings following the intense search efforts of 1937, the White River monster returned to public consciousness in the early 1970s. This resurgence was triggered by new reports of a gray creature with a horn protruding from the water. Witnesses also found three-toed, 14-inch prints along the riverbanks, suggesting that a large animal had passed through the area. These renewed sightings prompted a wave of public interest and speculation about the creature's origins. In response to the renewed interest, the Arkansas State Legislature established the White River Monster Refuge in 1973. This protected area, located near Newport, Arkansas, covers a designated section of the White River where sightings were most frequent. The refuge was designed to preserve the legend and ensure the protection of any creature within its boundaries. It also made it illegal to molest, kill, trample, or harm the White River monster while within the refuge. The establishment of the refuge was significant in acknowledging the cultural impact of the White River monster on Arkansas folklore. The protected area spans the White River between Old Grand Glaze and Rosie, where sightings had been concentrated. By creating the refuge, the Arkansas legislature ensured that future sightings could be observed without harm coming to the creature, allowing the mystery to endure and continue captivating the public's imagination. Biologist Roy Mackal proposed that the White River monster could be an elephant seal, though Joe Nickel criticized this theory, pointing out that the White River is far from the typical range of elephant seals. Nickel's theory is that the monster might be a Florida manatee, also known as a sea cow. These gentle creatures can grow over 13 feet long and weigh up to 3,500 pounds. They have gray, smooth skin that can appear mottled due to algae or barnacles, and they sometimes leave three-toed tracks when they crawl out of the water to graze. Manatees also make blowing noises, bask on the water's surface, and roll or dive, behaviors that align with reports of the White River monster. Other speculations include giant catfish, snapping turtles, or alligator gars, all large freshwater animals that might have been misinterpreted or exaggerated in stories about the White River monster. Despite the various theories, the creature's true identity remains elusive, with no concrete evidence confirming any specific hypothesis. Despite the lack of conclusive evidence, the legend of the White River monster continues to attract attention, both from locals and visitors. Vicki Shonoweiss, a park interpreter at Johnson State Park in Newport, often gives presentations on the monster. She reminds visitors that while they should not harm the White River monster if they encounter it, they should definitely bring a camera to capture any potential evidence. Although there have been no recent sightings of Whitey, the mystery persists. Some believe the creature died when the river became too shallow, while others think it is still out there, lurking in the White River's depths. Regardless, the story of the White River monster remains an enduring part of Arkansas folklore, a tale that captivates the imagination and continues to inspire curiosity and debate. During the holiday season, Johnson State Park showcases a Christmas decoration that depicts the White River monster, embracing the legend as more of a fun novelty than a serious belief. The White River monster has appeared in Time magazine, and J.K. Rowling even mentioned it in some of her works related to the Harry Potter universe, suggesting that the creature's spine was used to craft wands for American wizards. This legendary beast has garnered attention not only across the United States but also internationally. Despite the lack of concrete evidence regarding its existence, the White River monster continues to be a delightful element of Arkansas's cultural folklore, ensuring that the legend endures for generations to come. Theories about the monster's origins vary, but its exact nature remains a mystery.
Here's a few
Which leads
theories.
us, yeah, that's what I was about to say. This leads us into what what could it have actually been?
So biologist Roy Mackle believes the White River monster was an elephant seal. Joe Nickel disagreed and thought it was more
Joe
of a
Batterton
manatee.
disagreed
Yeah,
too.
Joe Nickel thought it was a manatee from Florida, which can grow 13 feet long and weigh up to 3,500 pounds. Have gray, smooth skin, can leave 3-toed tracks, like supposedly what was found on the river.
Yeah, you're talking about like the skin having that.
Yeah,
It's mottled, which sounds like mottled, but yeah, I mean they molt. I think is what that means. Their skin will start peeling and they get kind of nasty looking sometimes. But that, I mean, the size of a sea lion kind of makes sense in a way, in the description of the skin. But I mean, and that's a long, long way for a lost sea lion to get up into central Arkansas.
Other speculations: giant catfish, snapping turtles, alligator gar.
I personally, I can see. I mean, I thought about paddlefish. They get like 6 feet long. Is like the biggest one you'll see. But you take the paddle laying there, and if it comes to the surface, they've got that kind of catfish, kind of gray, slimy looking, slick skin. But alligator gar, those things, they get like 20 feet. I say 20 feet. I look back here, it says 10 feet long. I saw a picture of one, this little old man I used to know when I was a younger man. Used to hunt and fish a lot, and he had lots of pictures from back in the 40s and 50s when he was younger. And he had a picture of an alligator gar that they had caught, and he had it they had it hanging up like on a road sign, and it had to have been close to 10 feet long, if not bigger. It was just really, really wide. I mean, it looked like it was 3 foot wide. I mean, it was a monster. And I was sitting there, what's a monster? I've seen alligator gars, rise to the top. I remember being out with my grandpa one time checking trot lines, and I'd never seen one like that. And it was probably 3 or 4 foot long, and I thought it was an alligator. I mean, it had just kind of come to the surface and broke the surface of the water and was sitting there for a minute. And I pointed it out, and he told me that's that's an alligator gar. But if you saw one that was 10 feet long, and it was 2 foot wide or 1.5 feet wide, you would, and you'd never seen anything that big before. You would think that it was some kind of creature.
So the Johnson State Park has a Christmas decoration thing every year that has to do with the White River monster. It's been in the Time magazine, and J.K. Rowling mentioned the monster in some of her Harry Potter works, suggesting
that's what American wizards make. That makes great wands.
Suggests its spine was used to craft wands for American wizards.
Yeah, that was. I can't think of the name of the other book. It was like mythical creatures and where you can find them. Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought that was kind of neat though that she grabbed that little piece of Central Arkansas and used it in her book. That was.
But hasn't been a sighting that I know of since the 70s. I have theories for that because, like I said, if it was first seen in the Civil War and last seen in the 70s, that's an old creature. But I think it was multiple things that people saw, and I think the dams when they got put in is what stopped some of these things from swimming up from down south up the river.
Well, if it was a bull shark, they've documented bull sharks swimming in the Mississippi River all the way up to St. Louis, and that's a fact. So if they could swim all the way up the river to St. Louis, they could swim all the way up the Arkansas River to Batesville or Newport. Yeah. Or on up to Black Rock, or even Pocahontas. There's a possibility if the water conditions were right and there was no dams blocking its path. But like you said, when they put these impoundments or just even flood control dams, that kind of blocks the flow of some species going up. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a possibility. I can see a shark or something like that.
Yeah. So my opinion on what the White River monster was, I think it was something. I think it was some things that found its way up here, and throughout the years, people saw different things. That explains why there's different descriptions. Yeah, it could have been a bull shark, could have been alligator gar.
I'm going to have to disagree with you. I'm going to be a believer in cryptozoology, and that there are mythical beasts that are out there that they just exist, Nathan. They have to exist. Bigfoot's out there right now,
Sure
getting ready
is.
to go to bed.
Yeah.
Whitey's over in some bayou somewhere right now, getting ready to settle down for a nice spring nap. So, in my heart of hearts, I like to believe that those mythical creatures are out there somewhere.
Okay, listeners, viewers, what do you guys think it is? You think it was some mythical monster? Or do you think it was a big catfish? Something else? Let us know.
I think that's about it. I think that's about all the damage we can do with that guy. Kind of limited information on this creature, but it's still interesting though that you've got these myths and these legends that hang on out there, and the little boy inside of me just loves stuff like that. I like the boogeyman. I don't want him to get me, but I like the fact that they're hiding out there, and there's things that we don't know and things we've not seen, and I think legends, Arkansas legends, are they're just near and dear in our heart. I think it's cool stuff.
Yeah,
It's part of our history.
There's several Arkansas and Ozark and surrounding areas monsters or creatures that we may eventually get to. The Boggy Creek monster is one.
The
A famous
Ozark Howler.
one. Ozark Howler is one. I think Daniel Boone wrote about that, or they think he wrote about it.
I've heard the Ozark Howler. I know it exists. I've not seen it, but I've heard it.
I think it went to one of your shows, probably howling out.
It may have. I wish he'd show up more often.
I think that about wraps it up, guys. Thanks for listening, watching, however you view us or listen to us, whether it's Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple, Amazon, YouTube, wherever. We appreciate the views and the listens and the likes, and hit us up on all those major platforms and follow us. Subscribe.
Yeah, if you got something out there that you're interested in us covering, drop us a line or just hit us up on social media, and we'll do what we can to kind of pick around at it and give you our opinion and pull up any information we can on it. It's fun stuff.
All right, till next time, we're out of here.
Bye, guys.